Hello everyone, it is good to see you reporting in. Star Fox is a unique little series by Nintendo. It's never been large enough to be on the same scale as Mario or Zelda, for example, yet at the same time it's never been small enough to entirely fall into obscurity. The games, at times, have been divisive and unorthodox. There are fans who say that the series has been stagnating and lacking direction for years now. Those who claim that Star Fox 64 continues to be the best showing that the franchise has to offer. And even those freaks who will tell you that the titles on the SNES are in fact, unapologetically, their favorites. Oh yes, those people are out there. Somewhere in the galaxy. There are many Star Fox games out there, and they all don't exactly follow the same formula. I think that's a good thing. You might say that Star Fox has deviated from tradition more than Nintendo staples like The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. They have their own weird spin-offs like Link's Crossbow Training and Metroid Prime Pinball, but Star Fox takes everything into its core series. Games like Star Fox Adventures or Command don't play like traditional entries, but it entirely leans into that. As you may have heard by us on this channel by now, there is not a single bad Star Fox game, per se. Some have unique choices in their direction, but I feel their execution never dips into what I would genuinely label as a bad game. In 2005, the GameCube would receive its second title in the series after Rare's Star Fox Adventures. Star Fox Assault is a combination of ideas, old and new. While it does reintroduce the on-rail shooting gameplay of its classic predecessors, it also places a large focus on a third-person, on-foot perspective. Along with Fox's classic blaster, which I say classic, but I think the only time he's actually ever used it is Smash Brothers. That aside, he also gets to use weapons like machine guns, sniper rifles, grenades, and more. Just how much did this decision affect the flow of this title? Was this an unnecessary direction to take the series, or is this title's identity defined by its new branch of combat? To help me out with this, I recruited some wingmates to discuss each of the 10 missions of Assault and more. GVG's own Brandon Miracle and Amalia Solaris, two of the biggest Star Fox fans that I know, and were also the most likely to put up with me for this. With that, this mission is officially underway. There's no time to waste. This is Star Fox Assault. Let's rock and roll. Star Fox Assault was announced on May 8, 2002, several months before the release of Star Fox Adventures. It was initially supposed to release in April of 2003, with the team behind Namco's Ace Combat 2 behind the development. Unfortunately, multiple delays led to this game being produced by Namco's staff outside of Ace Combat and would not see a release until 2005. After the departure from the series' usual format with Star Fox Adventures, Assault was intended to be a return to form. Development unusually began where it ended for Star Fox 64, the multiplayer. According to the series' character designer and creator Takaya Imamura, the goal was to improve upon that game's multiplayer mode and see it fully realized. Its inclusion in Star Fox 64 was more of a bonus than anything. Namco presented documents for a vehicle-swapping war action game, the initial concept that would lead into freely swapping between the R-Wing and Landmaster in battle. So much effort and resources went into the multiplayer that the team wondered if they even needed to create a single-player campaign at all. But after the initial reveal trailer in 2003 was booed by viewers, developers redirected their attention to create a proper story mode like previous Star Fox games. Crazy how fan reception of pre-release footage used to influence development of games this much back then. This, however, is one of the prime reasons why the game would receive as many delays as it did. Which leads us to the story of Star Fox Assault itself. Taking place 1 year after Star Fox Adventures and 7 years after the Lilat Wars, the team hears of Andrew Oikini planning a rebellion with the remaining troops still loyal to his uncle Andros. We immediately get a feel for the care being put in the presentation of this game. There's full voice acting as before, proper cutscenes, more world building, and a fully orchestrated soundtrack. There's even motion capture. I didn't realize this before, but the Japanese version of this game has even more expressive and animated motion capture during the briefings. After Amalia told me about this, I went and found some footage to compare the two together. I thought the ones in the English versions were pretty good, but after seeing them here, now I'm a little disappointed. It's all in the eyes and their facial expressions. Since they don't blink or emote in the English releases, they feel a lot more lifeless and stiff. Sorry if I ruined this for you, oops. But that in no way distracts us from the space opera that is Star Fox, especially as the first mission thrusts us into space with the crew in hot pursuit of Oikonie.
It does a good job of expanding the scope from Star Fox 64 because you really get a sense for like the scale of the war with all of the like ships fighting in the background and the lasers going off. It feels like Star Wars in a good way.
Andrew Oikonie is an interesting character. He sort of forced himself into the Starwolf team. The only reason Wolf tolerates him is because he's using his connections to Andros to provide the team with technological and financial support. Sometime after Uncle Andros is defeated, Andrew gets kicked out since he can't shield him anymore. And though the voice direction might make him sound like a comedic villain, he did have enough authority to assemble the leftover forces from Venom and rebel against Corneria.
I actually really do enjoy that they had Andrew be the proper successor to Andros because he's always treated as a joke character. But what that mission does is it actually shows like, yeah, he's a joke character. He's pathetic. He's like that pathetic Nepo baby archetype. But he was still able to rally all of his uncle's forces and make a threat that was dangerous enough that General Pepper had to call in Star Fox.
I love how the first boss fight is just the classic final boss fight with Andros. Good old floating head and hands. And it's quite expressive too. But this isn't the real deal. It's mechanical and not exactly as much of a threat as his uncle. This is further emphasized by how you don't even get to land the finishing blow on Andrew. He gets swiftly taken out by the new and real threat to the Lilat system, the Aporoids. Wow, a two-phase boss fight on the first mission? This helps to frame what your expectations for this game should be. While the first mission feels very traditionally Star Fox, the scope has broadened. Every single mission was self-contained within its own atmosphere or planet in Star Fox 64. But here, we have multiple phases and set pieces instead. After pursuing in space, we take to the planet and continue until fighting off a completely new threat. After destroying the moth-like Aporoid creature, Peppy urgently tells Fox to collect the core to extract its data. We learn that these Aporoids are something that Peppy had encountered before, and that we need to keep an eye out to collect another core if possible. Stating that it's something they had seen previously is such a small blink and you miss it line, but I feel it makes at least some kind of significance when we talk about the overall plot later. While the first mission was entirely on the R-Wing, the second on Planet Katina is where we enter one of Star Fox Assault's most controversial decisions. It's our first experience with the new combat on foot. And while the previous game Star Fox Adventures also took Fox out of the R-Wing, this was an entirely different feel and context for battle.
It's interesting. I feel like Star Fox went from dogfighting action to intervehicular action. The thing that stands out to me the most when it comes to Assault's gameplay is just the ability to get in and out of vehicles on the fly. They were making a Halo game.
As someone who never owned an Xbox, I felt like this was, in some way, helping me to feel like I was part of the crowd. All of my friends still wanted to play Halo, so joke's on me, I guess. You're encouraged to go indoors to take out some of your targets as well, allowing you to experiment with different weapons while getting accustomed to the controls. You can jump, dodge roll left and right, and charge up your default blaster. Everything aside from your default blaster has limited ammo, from machine guns to heat-seeking missiles, so you have to do what you can to manage your resources at all times. You can swap between your weapons with the C-Stick, which, it's not a very elegant solution, especially as you gather a bunch of weapons that you need to cycle through on later missions, but it is a solution. You can definitely feel how much the team was trying to really integrate their new ideas primarily built for multiplayer into the main campaign with this. Some people will tell you that this feels like it was thoughtlessly shoehorned in, trying to capitalize on how big some shooters were at the time, like Brandon mentioned. But for as stiff as it might feel, there's a lot to be appreciated here. They even tried to incorporate a twin-stick control scheme for players. I was really bad at this, so I had to keep it on to the default options.
I don't think it's anywhere near perfect, but just the feeling of being a pilot who can also hop out of his machine and get down and dirty, I think is really cool. Also, there's a roll dodge, and that just makes it a better game by default.
It's true. Name a single game that wasn't better because you could roll out of the way. We'll delve more into this gameplay style as we continue, because there's another feature to consider here. The new on-foot missions were thoughtfully paired with something more familiar to fans, as they quickly integrated the use of the Landmaster as well. Though, it can't be argued if the Landmaster was integrated well, at least for this map. It had a lot of walls and ramps that don't exactly feel accommodating enough for a tank to be rolling through. It's kinda just here to break down walls that you have to traverse through later on foot. I've never really hated the Landmaster. Using it in a 3D map in this kind of context for the first time ever is appreciated, but it does sometimes feel a bit chunky in assault. Hovering, while useful for gaining altitude, doesn't really function as well as it could. You get almost no lateral distance, you sort of just pop up and then down again unless you're very close to a spot to land on higher elevation. Boosting is also sort of just this one little thrust forward. The Landmaster does have its moments, but I don't think this was the best one to showcase it for the first time. Its most vital integration was jumping on top of the boss, another Aperoid freak that wants to take the base down. After scrapping this one, another core appears, but that slimy Pigma Dengar shows up and swipes it immediately. Star Fox's goal then becomes entwined with the swine as we give chase to the Sargasso Outpost, a place where outlaws and other space ruffians gather.
Okay, let's get this operation started.
This mission secretly relays a message to you. I hope you like shooting things on foot because you're getting plenty more of it. But don't worry, this time you also have the R-Wing at your disposal as well. While Slippy accompanies you from within the base, Falco and Crystal will be dogfighting outside, warning you of a new mechanic to keep in mind. This little meter here will slowly fill as the battle starts to get hectic out there. If it gets too full, you need to take to the sky and shoot down enemies until it settles back down again. Compared to the previous mission, this one feels a lot more tailor-made to be on foot, especially when you don't have to keep the Landmaster in mind this time. There's a lot of verticality and chances to experiment with more weapons than before. You need to stay aware and take your time as you deal with these other rogues shooting at you while trying to find targets and hopping over barrels that make me feel strangely nostalgic. Slippy, being your on-foot partner, admittingly also doesn't help that much either, though he does have a surprising taste for blood.
When you get to Sargasso and you like run up to him and he's like, "No mercy!" and he's like shooting people, I'm like, my bloodthirsty son, oh my gosh.
It also combines like a really well like self-contained on foot level with the bombastic open air all range mode dogfighting when you have to go outside the hideout to defend. There's just a lot going on here and it all works together really well.
But the best part of this mission is when you take care of Phase 1 in the base, because look who it is! A new Starwolf emerges to take us out, and not in a romantic way. The team introduces a brand new member, Panther Caroso, a suave ladies man who pretty much instantly starts to hit on Crystal. I do love that his wolfen is adorned with a rose. This cat's got style. Obviously, Andrew is no longer part of the team since he's ambiguously dead as of right now. They also kicked Pigma off the team because no one likes Pigma. Oh, Leon is here too. I'm sorry, the great Leon. This new team flies under no one's banner now. This also introduces quite possibly the best part of their appearance. These boys crash the party with what I can only describe as the sexiest version of the Starwolf theme in the entire franchise.
Legitimately think it's one of the sexiest Nintendo songs ever created, hands down. Somehow it is sexier than that one part of Adventures where Fox sees Crystal for the first time in the crystal, and it also plays a sexy like sax for some reason. I think it's sexier. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
You know, there's something very unique about this version of the song. In Star Fox 64, it is very fast-paced and oppressive. You know that the team is here to shoot you down with no mercy. But as Leon tells you as soon as you encounter them, Andros ordered them to take the team down. Well, Wolf & Company has shed away from any association to Andros, and even invited a new member. This new theme is a lot slower in pace, like it's liberated and surprisingly kind of hopeful. It's going at its own tempo now, and this is so wonderfully emphasized by having this theme fully orchestrated. Unsurprisingly, this is not going to be the only appearance of Starwolf in this game, so we'll save some more of our gushing for later. Once we chase them off, we head down to Ficina to help solve a weather crisis. Ficina was not an inhabitable planet until a climate control center was built, but as of now, it's on the fritz, and if it doesn't get fixed, it'll become a barren, icy wasteland once again. Of course, this means the R-Wings aren't usable until we get to the generator to fix it, so Fox will be heading down for a battle on the ground, Landmaster in tow. By the way, I don't know how to explain it, but this game has some really great Saturday morning cartoon vibes in its line delivery.
Playing the hero again, huh, Foxy? Hey, more power to you, buddy. Me? I hate the cold.
Voice acting in the early 2000s could really go either way in quality, but the vast majority of the performances in Star Fox Assault are solid, which helps sell the story and its characters very well. There's a lot more banter in this game than in 64, which not only keeps the player from feeling too lonely in solo missions like these, but it also helps to establish more of the connection and camaraderie between you and your crewmates. I feel this mission starts to become more comfortable with showing that amongst the team. We start off in a dense snowstorm on the Landmaster, and it is much more accessible and open for a tank to tread on. Thank goodness for the map, it is just so hard to move around when your visibility is at the mercy of the weather. You also get introduced to the terrible roly-poly enemy that sucks, is hard to kill, and constantly tries to ram you and shoot projectiles at you. All the homies hate this thing, and I hope you do too. Like, leave me alone, oh my god, I just want to shoot one thing, ah! I am thankful that when the vehicle's HP runs out, it's not actually game over. You'll evacuate the machine and you'll have to find a new one. Thankfully, Fox has his own health meter. It's very forgiving in that way. After stumbling in the snow forever, the shields go down and you can enter the base to disperse the weather once again. The team can resume using R-Wings, and we get locked in and ambushed by a bunch of sentry bots. We're in survival mode, trying to avoid getting blasted and hugged by these guys until Falco gets told by everyone to hurry up and save him. You get a real feel for dodging, waiting for openings, and charging your blaster here if you haven't been doing so already. Despite how limited the controls might feel to other third-person shooters, it frames the scarce options well. I hope that the 3 on-foot missions in a row got you comfortable enough to be forced into this situation. Eventually, Falco does make his graceful appearance as he...
Wow, that was a flashy entrance.
So here's something I don't think anybody had expected. The game changes to a completely new perspective and format. You get equipped with a... what is this?
Fox, use the plasma cannon.
Oh, thanks, Peppy. What else would I do to hurt these guys? Spit at them? You're now riding shotgun on Falco's R-Wing in a guided on-rail section with an infinite ammo cannon, helping to keep your ride alive as you circle the base. Your job is to primarily watch for any enemies that might lock onto the R-Wing and shoot them down. Slippy also gets in trouble and you have to rescue him with the limited mobility of this section. But I can hardly be mad at him when flying around like this feels just so freaking cool.
It's so cinematic. Like, Assault is one of those games that, like, it has lots of flaws. You know, it has lots of things that it could have done better. But one thing that it always excels at is just being like absolute cinema. Just absolute cinema. They really go like, yeah, is this kind of silly? Sure. But rule of cool.
Speaking of flaws, while this portion does look and feel really awesome, it's also kinda hard to keep track of where you should be looking. There's no real indicators of enemies flying behind you when you're facing forward or to the side, and Falco just never shoots anything with his own R-Wing. I guess doing a barrel roll is out of the question here. I'm only slightly judging you. I also couldn't help but give Falco's R-Wing just a friendly little tap.
What? Is it bird season all of a sudden?
Once this section wraps up, we find out Pigma was the one allowing Aporoids to possess the machines, and causes one more threat to be taken care of. We jump up on the R-Wing and make quick work of the cannon-like boss with smart bombs. Or like, we would if it wasn't so hard to line up and shoot a bomb into its mouth. It only takes 3 bombs, but this thing just loves to look away from you when you're trying to aim inside. After we finally take it out, Ficina is saved and we go in full pursuit of Pigma, who's, acting kinda weird right now.
Obey us, obey us, obey us, obey. Was I just talking in my sleep? No, I won't To earn a profit by obeying them, I obey.
Our chase leads us to a series staple asteroid belt in our first mission that fully utilizes the R-Wing since the opening of the game. As with other missions thus far, we've been getting remixes from Star Fox 64 done in glorious full orchestration, like with the theme of Meteo. Or at least I wish I could hear it if it wasn't for every asteroid exploding like bombs. It's a pretty classic stage of zooming through space, helping allies getting chased, avoiding obstacles, and reacting to enemy attacks. Even though most missions in this game have been on foot thus far, it takes a reasonable break here to remind you what this series' strength is. For as despicable as Pigma is, he was rather competent in this game, kinda like Andrew was. He stole an asteroid core, he led Star Fox into the trap in Ficina, and was starting to build a new base in the asteroid belt, which gives you a new set piece to explore as you fly around it. And as you travel more inside, you can see the asteroid infection in various places. The weird purple junk is a clever bit of visual storytelling.
This is one of my favorite levels in the game. It's a traditional on-rails segment. They're separated enough that like it feels fresh by the time you get here. Star Fox Assault makes space so cool, and that's really on display here in this level. But like the most standout part for me is the boss fight, because wow, I really wasn't ready for that.
Once we finally catch up to Pigma, oh lord. Just the visual of him assimilating into the asteroid machine, with his legs gone and his body contorting while it's fusing into it, that's a pretty dark image. I don't know many Nintendo series that have shown something this horrific. And we learned that asteroids aren't just trying to take over the world for the sake of it. They're intelligent, capable of speech, and know exactly what they're doing. He puts up a fight, hurtling asteroids while firing all kinds of projectiles at you. Once he shows his ugly face, we can finally blast him with everything we have until Pigma finally goes down. And by down, I mean like, this guy's entire assimilated face just self-destructs.
That whole boss is just nightmare fuel. But it is so like well done, I feel. Like it's very in line with like his greed and how it led him to even selling out his wingmates in the 64 prologue.
I'm not a professional space combat fighter, but I'm pretty sure this mother porker is dead. There's no way he could come back from something like this, right? Right? Once the mission concludes, we get a report, and General Pepper states that it's time to go after the Asteroid Queen in their homeworld. But not before Crystal senses cries of pain from planet Saria, formerly known just as the dinosaur planet from Star Fox Adventures. With our friends in danger, we make a detour to help the dinos getting infected by the asteroids. You know, I really do appreciate that even though these games weren't developed by our usual teams at Nintendo, they still respected the source material that came before them. This was a unique time for them, handing their properties over to other companies. Retro Studios with Metroid Prime, Sega with F-Zero GX, Rare with Star Fox Adventures, and Namco with Star Fox Assault. They even put their own fun little references like the collectible special flags that you can find in every mission. The S-Flag appears in a lot of games, from the arcade era and its first appearance in Rally X, multiple games in the Tales series, to even Smash Bros. This was a time where I realized Namco really enjoys the continuity and its fan service, so it makes sense that even though it was conceptualized by Rare, and they no longer were associated with Nintendo, RIP, they still brought Dinosaur Planet to the mix. And I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised given Crystal is here. Maybe it should have been obvious that this was coming. Though it is kind of messed up that everything we did in Adventures didn't matter much in the end.
I was over the moon until I saw all the dead dinosaur bodies, and I was like, what do you mean I went on that whole mission and got all those spell stones and Krazoa, and y'all just died anyways? Like, hello?
Unfortunately, the mission of visiting Dinosauria Planet, whatever you want to call it, feels somewhat like an afterthought. I don't think there's a single new enemy to fight introduced here. You're given the freedom of both vehicles, but you're mostly on foot again and taking out more of those hatchers. All three forms of travel do serve their functions. While kind of bumpy, the Landmaster can cover ground and will be useful in taking out some of those tougher bugs outside. The enemy gauge is present again, so the R-Wing will be necessary to clear the skies or come to Slippy's aid. You could be in the middle of a shootout with an Aperoid and someone will need you to take to the skies. It's less than ideal. It's really handy to be able to just park and exit your R-Wing at any time though. You can also emergency jump out of it mid-flight, but that usually doesn't work out too well if you still need your ride. Otherwise, I found the R-Wing useful to taxi myself from one hatcher location on the map to the next one. Often, it's the terrain and elevation that just throws me off when looking at the red dots on the map, but it's not terribly complex or difficult, just somewhat basic. You'd think that after taking out all the hatchers, there'd be a second phase of the mission like most others, but that's not the case here. Once you take the last one down, the mission just suddenly ends. If you've gone so far as to dip into an entirely different game for references and callbacks, you might as well have gone the entire way. It feels like there's just so much more that could have been done to flesh out Saria aside from simply the location itself.
I do feel like there was a big missed opportunity with this level. It's a pretty condensed level. It could have been a bit bigger. It makes the Landmaster feel kind of clunky to use because there's just a lot of terrain and it just feels a little bit feels a little uneven. I think they needed to either redeem Rare and bring back General Scales, Aperoidified, out of nowhere, out of left field. Would it have been random? Yes. Would it have felt really good to finally beat him up? Also yes. Or just Aperoid T-Rex, Aperoid Red Eye. It would have been perfect. It would have been cinema. But they didn't, and I was really sad about that.
But once all is said and done, Saria is safe and we get a little reunion with Tricky. After some teasing with the Fox and Crystal shipping, the tone suddenly changes quite a bit. While dealing with the Aperoids on Saria, the enemy took advantage of our time away to take over Corneria, which had decimated the city and defense army. Interesting to note during the mission briefing is when Fox mentions that if he doesn't come back, he wants Falco to finish the job. Falco sounds really dismissive in tone, but I think it shows that he trusts Fox will get the job done and won't need to follow up. Bros just have a funny way of communicating that they care. This brings us back to Corneria with a wonderful orchestration of the first mission of Star Fox 64. We're going to be on foot, taking out jammers that can only be shot out of the sky with the use of sniper rifles. This is the first time you're required to use them. Thankfully, the jammers are kind enough to look in your direction and open their eyes for you to shoot when they're in view. While it might be disappointing that you're not taken to the skies in Corneria of all places, this does give you a chance to view the city up close and personal. It's an interesting perspective to have on a place that we've only ever flown by before.
I love just the scale of Corneria. Obviously, it's small by like modern standards, but like there's streets and stoplights and it feels like a city.
This reminds me of just how close series like Star Fox are to F-Zero. We all know that James McCloud didn't really die, he just left his family to become an F-Zero racer. And a human. Just don't ask. The design style and aesthetics really make Corneria look like it could be Mute City or something similar. It has the same holographic projections, the same color direction, and it even looks like a racetrack is raised above. You can see ads for a Corneria Film Festival, club membership ads, one for Zonus water quality, something for Melody of Memories? Did Star Fox predict Kingdom Hearts on Switch? There's even one for Saria development. Either Corneria was planning expansion for the planet, or word gets around really fast.
They really bothered to make it feel alive, like people live in it, and I really appreciate that because it adds to the urgency. If this is a place that you can believe that people are walking around and they're living like their normal lives here, it makes everything about the level feel a lot darker and a lot more serious.
It's easy to forget that in the moment of us playing a video game, that people are supposed to live here. It's messed up narratively that we're taking out Cornerian troops possessed by the Aperoids, and messed up personally that they want me to save Crystal from being chased while I'm on the ground. Homing launcher comes in handy quite a bit through this mission. You'll find yourself getting flanked and shot from multiple sides if you're not careful. It's more so clearing out your surroundings and checking to see how many jammers you can snipe from one location. Get some high ground and you'll be able to reach a surprising amount, making this on-foot section go by quite quickly if you know how to handle it. Once you blast them all out of the sky, Peppy will drop down an R-Wing for you to take care of the rest of the Aperoids. Except once you get there, your ride is immediately blasted and you get ambushed. But then, out of nowhere, Wolf comes in to save the day?
Wolf! What are you doing here? You're the one who dropped in unannounced. And if anyone's gonna tan your hide, it's gonna be me. Right. Wolf, wipe that stupid look off your mug. We're not done yet.
Much like with Falco in Mission 4, you are now riding on the Wolfen for a unique on-rail section. It's pretty much the same gameplay-wise, where you need to fend off asteroids locking on and following you in the sky, but narratively, this is just so cool. I'm a huge sucker for the trope of rivals banding together to take on a much bigger threat, and this game begins to accomplish that so well. After a while, Star Fox catches up to Star Wolf, and the banter between everyone is just so fun now that everyone has to get along and play nice. Not to mention, this is all to that amazing Star Wolf theme playing in the background. I think the direction of this orchestral arrangement was made for this specific mission in mind, because it doesn't sound quite as villainous as it did in other iterations, right? You start to hear how it's more like a blending of the tenacity of Star Wolf with the determination and heroism we hear in Star Fox's motifs.
They really kind of realize, like, hey, we got to put this aside for now, because there's a worse problem out there, and if that worst problem wins, we all are dead. It's really nice that they decided to kind of take that route with Star Wolf instead of just making them be, oh, well, we're just going to get in your way because we're evil and we have, you know, beef with you. It's nice. It really adds depth to their character.
I also couldn't help but give Wolf's Wolfen just a friendly little tap.
What are you aiming at?
But after the joyride, we get approached by the boss of this mission, and sadly, it's a halfway assimilated General Pepper. We have no choice but to take him down, and I gotta say, this is probably the most distressing fight I've had in a long time. The battle consists of you shooting and fending off attacks with the plasma cannon before the machine can hit the Wolfen. But the worst part of this whole fight is hearing General Pepper begging Fox to kill him, yelling in pain as you continue to shoot him. With a lot of Star Fox bosses, you can usually cheese your way through and end fights fairly quickly if you know what to do and where to aim. But because you're forced to use this one weapon, you have to slowly chip away at Pepper and really draw out how much pain he's in while everyone is telling you that you have to do it. But after a long battle, we fend off the asteroid-possessed Pepper, and suddenly Peppy jumps in to save his old friend. At least, I think the idea was that he used the R-Wing to stop the machine from completely crash landing, with like no friction between the ships. For a moment it looked like they both exploded there. We are assuming that Pepper was rescued, but I thought his body was assimilating into the gunship like how Pigma did. I guess I'm just not going to question it.
There's like that sweet moment with, I guess you could call it sweet, but like Wolf basically giving Fox a pep talk after that and telling him that, you know, he can't hesitate, just act. He doesn't just write Fox off afterwards, you know. He feels compassionate enough to at least offer a word.
I'm just saying, one of the best supporting characters out there. Before we go any further, I think it's important to note a key difference from this game to one like Star Fox 64. There are no separate routes in this game. The story takes place on one linear path, but is that necessarily a bad thing?
If they were able to do something like that on the N64, it's feasible. But again, you might be sacrificing those big story moments, those big plot moments. And I think that's what people remember the most fondly of when they think of Star Fox Assault. They think of how cinematic it was and how they actually tried to tell a darker story. One of the biggest problems you can do is you don't commit. You kind of go halfway. I think they might have only gone halfway with the story, and it would have just not been as memorable.
Star Fox is not a series that needs multiple paths. I do feel that Assault would absolutely lose some of its focus if they didn't commit to a single linear path, and instead tried to program ways that everything could still hit all the major story beats while still making sense. Like Amalia said, you could have characters appear in different places, but then you would probably lose seeing moments like Wolf and Fox having a talk with each other. The story is stronger for committing to a single path. Also, the game had been heavily delayed already, and probably wouldn't have been feasible to program all of that within a reasonable time frame anyway. But I like to think this was still a mostly conscious decision from the get-go. After the mission, Beltino informs us that we have the coordinates to the asteroid homeworld, and oh yeah, Beltino! I forgot about Slippy's dad for a moment. He's kind of the real MVP, finding their base and developing a weapon that can blast all other asteroids out of existence through apoptosis. We have to defend the orbital gate until development of the weapon is completed and gift wrap for the Queen. Time for a fully flighted battle in space on the R-Wing. You'll be fighting with friendlies as you try and defend the gate, so try not to shoot down the dogs. The sky is going to be filled with all kinds of enemies, some tailing you and your allies. It's nothing you haven't seen before. After some time passes, you'll be interrupted by a missile, and not just one that can blast a wing off the Great Fox. This is a big boy missile that could explode the entire area and everyone on it. We're back to the classic missile stopping missions. And like before, it's not just one. You immediately see how there are multiple popping up all over the map. Much like with the other games, you'll get some assistance in taking these missiles down. Starwolf will slip into the fight and synergize with the team to cover you, really further emphasizing that this is a dire situation and we need all the help that we can get. After multiple missiles are taken down, you'll get a new threat, a massive multiple section missile that will start hurling straight into the gate, gaining speed every time you shoot a new part of it off. Starwolf will continue to cover you until you finally bring these things down. It's always these ambiguously time-limited sections that stress me out the most. One moment, the missile looks so far away that we can loop around to get some distance. The next, everyone is yelling at you that it's already invited itself in the door and burns your whole house down. The timing for this is pretty forgiving though. But honestly, this is like the one mission I forget happens in this game. They sorta just stuck this in between the one with Corneria and the Aperoid homeworld. My biggest reaction when seeing this again was, I kid you not, oh hey, it's the Smash Bros. Stage. Because if I recall, the orbital gate in Smash Bros. For Wii U was so complex and detailed that it took them a whole year to develop it alone. And it's fairly faithful, right down to the UI that shows up here and there. It has you fighting on the Great Fox, the R-Wings that carry you from place to place, and even the very missiles that the team tries to detonate with you on it. As is tradition, you can also get cameo appearances and conversations with the Star Fox crew on this stage. It is one of the 5 stages in this game to not reappear in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, further deepening the Star Fox Assault erasure. Why does it always feel like I throw Smash Bros. Into these GameCube videos? By the time you fend every single missile off, Beltina will have completed the self-destruct program, and the orbital gate will launch everyone into the Aperoid homeworld. It's very cinematic, to the point where this is the most memorable part of the mission, the cutscene. It pretty much was just here to set the stage for this to happen, but the mission did leave a legacy behind that very few others have. After blasting through the portal, we arrive at a very pretty planet. It must die. But not before doing the longest mission in the game. The homies, we all dislike Mission 9. This one absolutely contributes to the discourse on why some people just really don't like the on-foot portions, because this one takes it all the way. Like before, we need to eliminate hatchers before we can do anything because we hate reproduction. But the problem is how it's all structured. This place is an absolute maze filled with several buildings, levels up and down, and pathways abundant with aperoids. When you find a hatcher, you have to find the thing that's shielding the hatcher, but when you go to the shielder, sometimes you get locked into a room that must be cleared out first. You get to do this several times. It's not the most tedious offensive task I have ever had to do, and I admit I was having fun switching between weapons and trying to find creative ways to take out the enemies. But there's just so many components to this place, you really have to make constant use of your map and make sure that you're at least in the same region as a hatcher. You have use of the R-Wing, but it's really just for the enemy gauge in the sky right now. And the Landmaster is here, which I really didn't want to leave because it's scary out there. A lot of missions that put you on foot, if you're doing them for the first time, might not be any longer than 15 minutes at most. This one, you could be wandering around lost for over half an hour due to the scale of the area. But if we want to turn off the shield, we gotta get it done. And these interiors get crazy with just a mass of enemy types, from the ones that need stronger charge shots to those that just hang on the ceiling and drop down explosives. I get the game really wants to test you on everything you've learned while being on foot. This is the last mission you'll be hooking it after all. But this could have been about half the size and still get the point across. It's the only time I'm really going to be hating these sections. And also the fact that any allies on foot don't really do much of anything after they clear out the section that they're programmed to scout. Crystal, please, do something else. I'm in constant survival mode with my health in the red, using every weapon and item at my disposal just to crack a few eggs. But seeing Crystal run around makes me oddly suspicious that perhaps this mission was not meant for only a single player alone.
This is another level that feels like it was meant to be a co-op mission. Like, divide and conquer, you know, go to the different areas, split up, and then it won't take 18 years to beat this level.
After we finally get rid of those hatchers, we move on to Phase 2! Fox sounds just as annoyed as I was. Don't worry, it is so much shorter than what we just went through. Hatchers appear below the base, and we have to take to the R-Wing to rid them. Take care not to run out of health or accidentally hop out of your R-Wing here, because you'll just fall forever. As much as I dislike the mission, at least it looks cool and unique. This time, I'm not annoyed by the fact that there's not a boss at the end. I kinda just wanted to leave at this point. In general, I feel that all-range mode bosses just aren't as interesting or memorable as the on-rail bosses anyways, so I don't feel anything of value was lost by not having one here. Shooting down the last hatcher leads us to the final stretch as the shield goes down. But then, the shield goes back up again. Just when it looks like we have no more options left, Peppy comes in out of nowhere, diving headfirst into the shield with the Great Fox itself. Seeing as the entire ship was getting completely overrun by aperoids, it seems he thought there was no other options left, even as Rob64 tells him that they're probably not going to survive this. This is a crazy way to lead into the final mission. The Great Fox has always been such an icon to the series. Truthfully speaking, it hasn't really done anything notable in this game until this very moment. And it's coupled with the fact that Peppy very well knows he's not going to live through this decision. You hear him giving his last words to the crew, telling them to hurry up before the shield reforms. Poor Slippy is crying his eyes out during this too. Like with Pepper, there's just something unsettling at seeing these characters we've known for years meeting their ends. It's a little hard to see because everything's in red, but for a moment you notice Peppy's arm is already showing signs of being possessed by the aperoids as well. Seeing Peppy holding his heart in fear, that really made me feel something for a character that I honestly didn't really feel particularly attached to when I played as a kid. But man, did he go out in style as the Grey Fox covered you one final time. Moments later, right before the mission begins, we find out that Starwolf is here too? Look, by now you know that I obviously don't mind them being here, and I know the sequence with Peppy would have felt a little off if it wasn't just between the Star Fox crew, but there was like no opportunity for them to sneak in here with us. Oh well, we're suspending disbelief for the cool factor. The Dream Team is here to take on the final mission together, and this one's gonna be rough. The visuals of this mission are unlike anything we've seen in the Star Fox series, just so alien and futuristic looking, even for the franchise. There is a lot to watch out for, from obstacles emerging to enemies flying right at you. Your allies will give you little gifts and items if you manage to protect them when they need help. I found those healing rings quite essential. It really feels like Namco was leaning back into their history with space shooters like Galaxian and Galaga with some of these aperoid designs. I swear some of those sound effects are taken straight from those arcade games as well. Even with the world on the line, Team Star Fox and Starwolf can't help but quit back at each other every now and then. At one point, you'll come across an endless wall of aperoids that will shoot at you and block your way to the final stretch. Wolf will then order his team to cause a distraction. For as snarky as they can be, his teammates never talk back to or complain to Wolf. He's always portrayed as a very competent and trusted leader. You can see Leon and Panther attracting the aperoids away from you, clearing your path to the Queen. In the heart of the nest, we hear a bunch of voices of people the aperoids had consumed and assimilated, like Pigma, Peppy, and General Pepper. And then we hear from James McLeod, which makes me question some things. The aperoids take in the information of the people it absorbed, but there's a pretty small chance James himself encountered the aperoids, right? Unless this trophy from Smash Bros. For Wii U is anything to go by, it's possible that he encountered it 17 years ago. They do mention coming across aperoids in the past during the story, but it's such a quick single line that we don't really get a chance to absorb it. The other likely explanation is that these creatures also take in memories from people like Peppy. Lots of interesting lore bits to dive into there. But it's rather eerie hearing them trying to goad the team to peacefully surrender and live as one within the Queen. This shows how much of a threat the aperoids are to the galaxy, arguably even more so than Andross. Mostly because they aren't just mindless drones, they have sentience, they are capable of thought and reasoning. After doing this dance in all-range mode, the fight gets taken to one final on-rails section. The false voices stop and we hear the voice of the aperoid Queen herself.
All for us. All things in the universe will be ours.
It's like a weird AI voice that I can't help but feel like I've heard somewhere before.
You are an enemy. Where is the creator?
The view is clear. I must be complete.
It must be my imagination. This last fight is crazy. There are just so many components and segments to the Aperoid Queen. From the weak spots, the tentacles and mouth shooting out rocks, the main head and the neck, the pedals that fire out more explosives, it's so much. And remember that you're not alone. During the fight, your allies will step in to take some shots and you have to cover them. Either you shield them and they drop an item like health, or you pretty much fail and they're taken out for the rest of the fight. It is do or die over here. Once you finish off the exterior, the heart of the Queen shows and makes one last attempt to shoot you down. This fight is all a matter of not being too greedy and watching your surroundings. Or as a great pilot once said, trusting your instincts. With patience, it'll go down with a hauntingly real scream and the self-destruct program initiates.
That's the end of the Queen. Hey!
The program's working!
Hey, team!
Destruction is spreading across the entire planet.
So, I guess that's the end of the Aperoids.
So the whole thing was just one big entity. She tried to bypass evolution by stealing souls, but you have to be born with one. All ships, evacuate at maximum velocity. Let's go!
We make our great escape as the credits now begin to roll. There are some fun little extra bits of world building that drop during these credits, as we see how much damage every area we visited took. Some minimal, others pretty catastrophic. But we couldn't simply leave this crew without any closure. We get a post-credits scene. This shot makes it look like the end of a Metroid game with the explosion of a planet. Samus would be proud. And just as Crystal starts to mention all the casualties of this epic, we see that Peppy and Rob64 survived in some kind of escape pod, which I guess makes sense that the Great Fox would have such a thing. So here is where some words about the story can be had. It's very easy to believe that Starwolf survived. I imagine he knew how the self-destruct program worked because they were sharing comms during the battle at the orbital gates. So once they got the Aperoids off of Fox, they likely booked it back to the entrance again. That team is way too tenacious to be taken out off screen like that either way. Pepper, it's so ambiguous what happened to the General after the battle at Corneria. Was he not fused to his ship the same way that Pigma was? Because he looked pretty far gone at that point to me. Peppy though, I'm one of those people who thinks the story of Star Fox would be stronger if they allowed important characters like him to die. There was just a lot of potential to keep pushing the story forward had the game committed to more deaths.
It would have also served as like a good follow through on like, oh, Fox has to become a leader now, because now all of his parental figures are gone. Like his dad is dead, his dad's teammate Peppy is dead, General Pepper is dead. They really could have done something interesting with a follow-up game, but that's not what happened. We live in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo, where they beat the tar out of each other in fights, but nobody ever dies.
James McCloud is the only character in this entire series that is confirmed to be 100% dead. Andros too at this point. But as we see in other games like Star Fox Command, even characters like Andrew and Pigma survive somehow. Like, how does that guy keep surviving? He's just a block now. It thinks he's Gruntilda with how many times he doesn't actually die. I think the three of us are in agreement that it would have been pretty poetic if the glue that holds the team together was gone and Star Fox needed to adapt from here on. But it's not like we've actually advanced much in the Lylat lore at this point anyway, have we? That ball is in Nintendo's court, and after Zero, I would be happy to see them reintroduce more characters like Crystal and Panther in a more traditional title in the future. Honestly, can we get like a Star Wolf game? The characters are there, a story can be built around their mercenary for hire days, or anything really. I can totally see them in their own little anti-hero arc. I guess we'll just have to dream about playing as Wolf another day.
But I remember sentiments about the game being very mixed at first, you know, and it ranged for a variety of reasons. Some people didn't like the choice of like Peppy retiring, for instance, even though like it felt like natural character progression to have Crystal replace him. And some people didn't like, you know, just various other decisions. there's some of the sentiment still, I think, in the fan base, but overall, Assault is considered to be just very beloved, even though it has like flaws. It's just nice that, like, despite it being a flawed game, people are giving it its flowers. And I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, but it definitely does not end there, because we have yet to scratch the other half of the game. If you got into the multiplayer of Star Fox 64, note that this is an entirely different ballgame. As you might expect, emphasis is placed on every form of travel in the single-player mode, from R-Wings to Landmaster to on foot. There's a variety of maps to choose from, and so many customizable options. Some stages are taken straight from the story, and others are completely unique to this mode, including the Zona's Sea Base, for example. The first thing that came to mind as I began to explore some of these maps is the scale.
Why are the maps so big? They're huge. They're massive. It's like this was meant for like 16-player online, and the maps still might be too big.
I don't think you can easily fathom how insane the shootouts can be unless you're in the pilot's seat yourself. Battles can go from crazy R-Wing fights, someone on foot shooting at you from below using something like a heat-seeking launcher, Landmasters doing the barrel roll dance on the ground trying to shoot each other. I didn't play this much with friends, sadly, but I still remember some hilarious moments with each other. Each character has their own stats and attributes, and you can unlock more by playing matches and getting high scores in the story. Peppy and Wolf can be unlocked to join the fight, because of course they can. The people love Wolf O'Donnell, and Peppy needs to stretch his legs.
Dang, I'm hit!
For as difficult as it might be for some to acclimate to this new control style in a Star Fox game, it is really worth getting friends together to just go crazy with it. It is a silly space shooter that not enough people realize existed or how in-depth it is. Beyond just characters, you can unlock more maps, weapons to have in rotation, items like booster jetpacks, and even the Wolfen itself. Also, I'm not sure why, but the music dedicated to the multiplayer maps mostly all forego the epic orchestral tension of space combat and make all of them very upbeat and easy to dance to. Y'all, they went crazy with just the music in this mode alone.
The, like, Saria multiplayer music lives rent-free in my head.
I love the head-bopping, good time, good feels that this mode gives you, even if I can't hear it very much over all the explosions. And it transitions into an even more uplifting version of the main theme when someone is 1 point away from winning. When you consider that the game got so huge that they needed to potentially cut a massive stage like Zonus from the main game, you start to see how much time and attention was directed to the multiplayer in particular.
The multiplayer mode in this game should be celebrated, and no one ever talks about it.
I really hope that a reintroduction to this series on Nintendo Switch Online gives the game the second chance that it deserves. There is so much to discover in just this mode alone. The story, while even though it's not a split path like before, it doesn't need it. That's not the kind of story that they were trying to tell with Assault. They buckled down for a more focused narrative and proved to be a very worthy sequel to the Lilat Wars. People will criticize its new mechanics on foot, for sure, but maybe the point is just to get good at it. Like with most other Star Fox games, its single player is meant to be an arcade style mode that you can replay several times over, either for high scores, collecting medals, or the S-flags. What can you earn by collecting every silver medal in the game? Well, I'm glad that you asked. By getting every single one, you can unlock Bonus Game. What is Bonus Game? It's Xevious. Nothing more, nothing less. That's Xevious. Namco decided to shove in another space shooter like it's Namco Museum out here or something. They were like, yeah, you shoot aliens near the surface of the planet. Star Fox fans will love it. It's fine, I guess. It doesn't offend me by being here, it's just funny. Like, why not have the superior arcade shooter Galaga or Galaga 90? Those are basically Aperoids. If you envision James McCloud as the main character, you could even call this a prequel. But all jokes aside, I think Star Fox Assault is certainly one of the better titles in the franchise. One of the best even. And all of you clearly agree. Not long ago, the team did a top 10, or I guess top 12, Star Fox games in the franchise, as voted by you. And the only game to beat this title out was Star Fox 64, the OG. And you know what? Good. That's how it should be. There are a lot of haters and non-believers in this game with the wrong opinion, and you didn't even need this video to tell you how great it is. And I'm proud of you. I knew that this was a smart community. If there was any game to beat this in a popularity contest within its own franchise, Star Fox 64 is the only viable and respectable contender. The advances it made and the legacy that it upholds is still felt in shooters today. I say this as someone who thinks there is merit in all Star Fox games, even ones like Zero and Command that may take people some time to warm up to. I just hope that there's still a fire in the Star Fox series that doesn't go out, because fans truly are the ones to help keep that light going and want to see it shine to its full potential.
Sometimes I feel with Star Fox they don't know if they want to full commit or not, and that leads to sometimes the series feeling a bit messy. They need to just commit one way or another. And I think they have so much potential for just a really good narrative, like overarching narrative over multiple games, because there's so much potential in that series. And I'll be the one to say it. They're furries.
She's not wrong. Can someone out there just throw the furries a bone? And that's about it for all things Star Fox Assault. Thank you of course to Brandon, who you can always find here on the channel, and to our special guest Amalia Solaris. She is a good friend who you can find streaming often on Twitch and uploading even more Star Fox content here on YouTube. She is funnier than I am and very passionate about this series, so I encourage you to go check her out. I could not have asked a cooler space dragon to join me. I'll have links to those socials down below. This video would not have come together the way it did without my invaluable wingmates. Thank you both, and thank you for watching. I'm assuming if you got this far, you've either played the entirety of this game before, or were just curious enough about this little gem. We have definitely been on a Star Fox kick over here, and I knew I was going to get to this title sooner or later. Let me know if you played this before, and if your opinion potentially varies greatly to ours. I'm always open to hearing what everyone else has to say. If you want another, even longer retrospective into a game that I'm passionate about, the last title I did a video like this for in my GameCube series was Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. That is an hour and a half of me just going through as much as I can about the game and narrative. I'll leave that at the end of this video. But as of right now, this mission is complete. Make sure to take care of your wingmates and yourselves. Till we meet again.